Hi, Anna here. I wanted to share a little bit about working with the breath. So, breath work in different styles and forms is becoming increasingly popular for its therapeutic practices. And I remember one time when I was in my early 20s and I was struggling a lot with anxiety and panic attacks. And one of the things I was told to do was, just take a deep breath. And I was like, okay. And even at the time, and they're like, yeah, sit down and do it. It was like, it did not help me at all. And then also through different yoga, I've done a lot of different styles of breath work following on from that after um, dealing with the anxiety at that particular time. And what I've noticed is a big change in my own way that I practice breath work. And a lot of that is like with the energy work I do, I always introduce a bit of awareness of breath because we do want to connect with the breath because that helps us connect into our body and develop the interoception of feeling what's going on inside when we do this with the breath, which also connects into our energy system. When we bring awareness to ourselves, we're not just bringing awareness to physicality, we are becoming aware of the whole being. Whether you notice that or not, we are connecting in on all those levels at the same time. And then also through the work I've done around nervous system dysregulation and healing somatically. So this is another step of being aware of what's going on within the physiology, because when we're out of dysregulation, we're in that fight, flight, stress responses, and we can get stuck in those, as it seems like most of the world probably is to a degree. So the way I personally like to work with breath, and this is my approach from the way I've learned and worked through my own issues around trauma and dysregulation, and the way what I bring into my own personal practices and practices with other people, is to slow it down and to start with, and when I say slow it down, not slowing down the breath, I mean slowing down the approach. I don't jump into control. I don't jump into deep breaths. I first want to work with just simply awareness. So you can do this with me, and you'll notice pretty much all my practices start in very much a similar way, which is just simply stopping, getting settled, getting comfortable, whether it's seated or lying down, and bringing that awareness to the breath and the nostrils, and just starting with the nostrils, and as though you're feeling the breath for the first time, and being aware of the sensation of the inhalation and exhalation, and then just being aware of what you notice. It is quite normal for as soon as we bring our awareness to the breath to slow it down. We do it sort of automatically. So don't feel like you've done something wrong because you slowed the breath down, when all you're meant to be doing is just bringing awareness to the breath. But just being, what we want to do is be aware of what is going on. So just by being aware of that breath, aware of the sensations, we can become aware of whether the breath is fast or slow, shallow or deep, whether it's going in through one nostril or the other, because this shows us other things as well. And then just by, after a little bit of awareness of the nostrils, then I follow the breath down into the body. I might just simply notice the sensation. I want to keep the awareness of the sensation in the nostrils, but then expand the awareness of the breath. So feeling it in that throat, perhaps, in just that region. Or maybe I'll go all the way down to the body and see how far I can follow the sensation of that breath with inhalation and exhalation. Being aware of the areas that expand and contract. So being aware, if I'm only breathing shallowly and only my chest is expanding and contracting, there's no movement in my belly, then I know I can move towards opening and creating more space for the breath. But I don't want to jump into that straight away. I want to give myself time and space, depending how I'm feeling. Like if I'm really stressed out, I don't want to move straight into deep, slow breaths. I need to be with that stress first, to identify it, to notice it, so that I'm not sort of suppressing and repressing, because that's a big habit of how Western culture is, to suppress and repress, and that's a big part of our issues, rather than being with what shows up and what is present. So if I notice that breath, I notice that stress or tension in my body, I can give it space to be felt if it's appropriate, because sometimes I might just check in and do this with myself at the end of the day or in the morning to see what's going on, to connect with my physiology. And so by doing that, I can give time and I can be with and hold space for myself and being present. And if I just be with that stress reaction, just noticing, being present, maybe allowing my body to move in some certain way that it might want to do to release that stress. So it's not about holding tightness, tension, and stillness all the time. It's about creating space for what needs to be felt. It's not a meditation practice or a practice to achieve anything or get to a particular goal. It's just about presence and awareness. And as I do that and I deepen in, I can notice where I'm breathing to. And then if I'm someone, or working with someone I should say, that only really breathes shallowly I would look at working with this awareness to slowly develop, to slowly move the expansion of the breath, to add more into the belly. And then when it comes to taking a deep breath, I don't do that. I was taught that in the past. I do not do that anymore. I just got rid of that. I will, if I'm wanting to do a particular meditation breathwork practice, I will start this way, and then I'll let things naturally slow down. And then when I feel ready, then I might bring in the deep breath of it. And I don't like to count. I've realized myself, when I get too structured, like I've got to count this amount, it's got to be this length or that length, and then I'm following that and I'm counting. I notice myself going into a stress response doing this, and it's not helpful for the practice or for myself and what I'm trying to achieve with the practice. So I personally have let go of breath count, whereas breath count might work really well for you. And then I just allow the pauses of the inhalation and the slowness of the exhalation develop. So where I start and where I end can be very, very different. Or I may start and not lengthen that over the time. I might just stay with where I was. So I'm always giving myself the space to let my capacity at that time lead what I do with the breath work. All right, so I just wanted to bring that in and drop that in as an alternative to doing a lot of breath control practices, especially as a tool for trauma. Because when we're working with trauma, our system is super sensitive or so numb we can't feel what's going on. So when we're doing something that's really controlled and we're really numb, we are not necessarily giving any space for that numbness to release and to develop that interoception and create space for things to start to soften and move, and for sensation to come back into the body. Or in that state of we're so hypersensitive and so reactive, it can send us spiraling in different directions. So I just encourage you to be really aware, if you're doing some of these breathwork practices, really tune into what's happening for you on the level of your nervous system and seeing if this is right. Because some of these practices are absolutely wonderful. It can depend on the individual and the person. But yeah, really take the time to notice what's happening for yourself and seeing if it really is the right thing for you. All right, thank you. Love and blessings.